Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and the execution of Nathaniel Woods. I don't know if I'm saying his first name right, but Nate Woods. And it's controversial because there's a lot of people out there that didn't think he deserved to be executed, that he really wasn't culpable in the shooting that took place in 2004 of three police officers. Now, of course, the debate will linger on and maybe a perpetual debate on this matter. I had looked at his chart. I don't have his time of birth. Of course, his natal chart was not available. I didn't see it online. And but based on planetary positions, okay, he has the sun in Scorpio. And the thing about it is, he's probably somebody that was, fighter. I'm sure he fought for this tooth and nail. There probably were some appeals on this. I haven't investigated that story that extensively to know if he did or not, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did. A lot of this, this is really about, could likely be about something that could be a travesty to justice. If he, I think what happened was they believe that this was justified, at least because, as far as his execution goes, because the actions led to the deaths of officers. Apparently, somebody else that had shot, someone named Spencer, I believe, shot these officers, but the fact that he had been confronted by someone, one of the officers, and Woods had ran inside, presumably, and because of those actions, it actually led to the officers being shot. Now, I don't, from what I'm hearing about this, it seems like he probably should not have been executed. But talking a little bit as far as astrology in this execution that goes, now he also Nate Woods also had Mercury in Libra, which would have likely, which I know would have put it in the 12th house in a solar sunrise chart for him, because again, as I stated before, his natal chart not available online, time of birth not available. I did not find it anyway. And when you have and Mercury in the 12th house can be about limitations in one's communication. You're talking about being the zodiac sign Libra, legal matters, and it's really like, he might have stated his case abundantly, but really in a way not really heard by many people. It's like listening but not hearing. His case may not likely had been heard enough, and sadly, the thing about this too is what I noticed in his chart is that Nate Woods also has, when I was looking at it, he has, having the sun. You're talking about the sun in Scorpio. He had the moon in Scorpio, I believe, as well. And this shows, moon in Scorpio, of course, can have the ability, power to control the emotions, but the emotions can at times be very intense, very convoluted as well. And and I'm just thinking, his response. You have that Scorpio energy, a lot of sun and moon in Scorpio, inordinate willpower, basic character being the sun, having a lot of that, just that basic, having a lot of that, having indomitable spirit, having very strong strength of character, and then the moon in Scorpio on an unconscious level, exhibiting, of course, a lot of, exhibiting Scorpio characteristics and having in terms of, being the moon, you're talking about the moon in Scorpio is, can be, the moon can be, your public image, how you, what you want to be recognized for, and I'm sure he wanted to be recognized as somebody that had an indomitable spirit, had very tremendous willpower, and had great strength of character, and somebody that was very resilient and had the ability to bounce back. And sadly, I don't know all the full details on this story, but from what I've seen, it seems like he likely may have been executed unfairly. Now, in his progressed chart, he had the Sun conjunct Neptune, and he was killed. The execution was done by lethal injection. In his progressed chart, at the time of the execution, his Sun was in Sagittarius, conjunct Neptune in Sagittarius, lethal injection through by means of the law, and was done, of course, in a legal manner. Now, ironically enough, when I looked at the execution chart, which was for 9, according to what I researched online, 9:01 p.m. on March 5th, 2020, Libra was on the ascendant. And Libra is supposed to be about what's equitable, what's just, and what's fair. What it tells me is that this was this execution with this lethal injection was just done in a way where you didn't get much really. There wasn't any acrimonious energy in connection with it. You didn't have any physical confrontations or somebody trying to physically stop this execution from taking place. But at least at the exact time when this actually transpired is what I'm saying. You didn't get much discord from others. Now, you had people that were really were speaking up or advocating for Nathaniel Woods at this near this time, though. Kim Kardashian was one of them. Ironically enough, she has a late Libra sun in her chart, and on the execution chart was at 27 degrees Libra rising. I thought it was interesting, even though she had nothing to do with this execution. She's obviously a prolific celebrity, and this is somebody that would be remembered at the time that this transpired, because she was somebody that was advocating. She was one of the more famous people advocating for Nathaniel Woods at the time of this execution. Now, at this execution chart, the Sun was also conjunct Neptune as well, which could be an indicator of the Sun is the physical body, can represent the physical body. The ascendant is what dominates the appearance more in astrology, but the Sun can also be tied into the physical body. At this time, transit Sun was conjunct transit Neptune in Pisces. This was a lethal injection to the body and through chemical. Obviously, injections are chemical means. This was on the sign of Pisces, but I think this could be an indicator that there was some some energy. This was done maybe with not knowing all the details, and this was done with a lot of very nebulous energy, where things were a little bit, where this injection, this lethal injection, this execution, there were things connected with it that were very obscure, nebulous, and unclear at this time. This was one that might have confounded some people, and really, to me, and again, not to be overly redundant with this, but this could have very likely been something that was not, really 100% justified, this execution at this time. Now, the thing about it is, now looking at, again, this execution chart, I thought it was interesting that based on the time I researched online, the date for March 5th, 2020, it was in Alabama, I believe it was Atmore, Alabama, and it was at 9:01 p.m. Again, March 5th, 2020, Atmore, Alabama. The moon was in Cancer, conjunct the midheaven at the time, and it was interesting. It made some oppositions to the Capricorn energy at the bottom part of near the bottom part of the chart. Now, when you have, and it shows to me, I think that reflects a lot of these people that were very these publicly people being very nurturing and sympathetic toward Woods, that were of celebrity status. The fact that the moon, of course, could be connected with something public. Cancerian energy is very nurturing, very sympathetic. Conjunct the 10th house cusp of, and this could reflect people that have notoriety, public acclaim, that have recognition, that could be famous, opposing this energy posing the fourth house cusp of the end of life, an end of life that would cause, it would be one that would have a lot of, cause many people to feel very despondent, melancholy, very depressing end of one's life, and also opposing Pluto in this chart of the event chart for this execution, opposing the death. And interestingly enough, when I looked at, hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, another thing I noticed when I looked at this event chart, you had Mars, Jupiter, and Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn in a conjunction, series of conjunctions. And when you look at a series of conjunctions in a chart like that, you break it down very systematically. You start out with the first planet. That starts with that energy. Then it ends with the final planet. Now, starting out with Mars in Capricorn, okay, this is something that was related to gunfire. Then you have Jupiter, gunfire in connection, which you could be, you look at Jupiter, could be connected with the law. This was unlawful. Then hitting Pluto, resulting in death. Then the final planet, Saturn, which of course caused, maybe some, really some, you're talking about Saturn being authority, somebody, the death of authority figures. And the fact that this was in Capricorn, the fact is all that energy was flavored, was very depressive and caused a lot of sorrow and grief. Now, and also that Saturn also conjuncts at the end, following it, is the fourth house cusp of the end of life. So this resulted, sadly, the end of life. This is very symbolic of what actually transpired at the time of the killings of these cops. Now, I don't believe he shot these people, the police officers, but it's still the result of the shooting of the police officers. This was still in connection with that. So I think it's very interesting how this event chart played out, because it reflects the reason really as to of the execution and the end of life for this person. If I'm not mistaken, the fourth house cusp, the 10th and fourth house cusp axis was either at 29 degrees or very close to it. And you're talking about 29 degrees is a critical degree in astrology. And you're talking about, when I see 29 degrees can reflect the full culmination of the energy of the sign. You're talking about a very, the conditions, the fourth house cusp being in Capricorn. It's a very strong, powerful, depressing energy at that latter part of life, and something that had to do with authority figures finally is coming to an end, where the latter part of life was very strongly restricted, coming to an end, because Capricorn energy, of course, can be about restriction and limitations, and again could be very depressing. And he also had in the event chart of this execution, Uranus in Taurus was in the 7th house, and it's making the opposition to the face of the chart, the late Libra ascendant degree. So it shows that he may have had very strong, loyal. When you look at Uranus in astrology, it can be about friendships. This could be about people that were friends, loyal, steadfast friendships, being in Taurus, that are opposing this event, basically. So I think that's how that could have reflected, and that's how that energy may have manifested in this, as far as this goes. But anyway, people, don't really have a whole lot more to say about this. It was just that also that Nate Woods didn't say anything, I don't believe, at the time of this execution. I don't think he had any last words Again, a lot of that I think is reflective of the Mercury in Libra in the 12th house in the solar sunrise chart for him in his chart. Then you look at the fact that Mercury was retrograde at the time of this Mercury was retrograde in unpredictable Aquarius. It might have been surprising, maybe a little shocking being in Aquarius that he didn't say anything. And you also had Pluto and Saturn in the 3rd house of communications in the event execution chart. Pluto can sometimes Saturn can restrict communication, but you also have Pluto can simply obliterate, annihilate, just wipe out communication, period. So it's not surprising that he didn't say many things at the time of this execution. So anyway, people, well, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.